wait a minute.
Steelers gonna make the playoffs? Nope.
Man, you know they are.
Yeah, they got
Rocket, pull up on your phone.
Yeah, but it's just saying tabletop.
Yeah, but you can see that.
Yes.
All right, good.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can see you?
No, I can't see me.
I know you're not supposed to.
Oh.
All right, we're live.
They gotta have 6 teams lose.
Huh?
They gotta have a bunch of teams lose.
Bunch of teams lose. But it's gonna happen.
You're live.
All right. Share this with somebody. Tune in.
But it's gonna happen. Oh, I need turns down to. I'm sharing it now because Nick told me to.
That was loud.
All right, we got 7.
All right,
On, I think
we're
we're
ready.
frozen though. On here we're frozen.
It's probably just your Wi-Fi.
Okay. I don't even think I'm on Wi-Fi.
Oh.
I don't think. Hang on.
Are you
No.
frozen, Rob?
I'm not on Wi-Fi.
No, y'all can talk to the people.
Okay. All right. Welcome to Table Talk. Your Wednesday kind of mid of the week, just announcements, something to eat on. Roger preached last week. It was called Game Plan, and I really appreciate it. It's kind of, talking about the game plan heading to the new year. And the 3 things you broke down for small churches are what?
Faith, family, and like personal ministry or career. You know.
Yeah. So we had a great talk in small church about that last night, and I always think it's helpful to kind of start out every year with the game plan.
Yeah. Have a plan. Like we did it last year with the marriage ministry. We created a vision board.
Yeah.
I know you guys have done this before. I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
And so now every morning I'm in my office at my house, I'm looking at my vision board.
Wow.
And it creates that focus
Yeah.
where it's, on the front of my mind and allows me to be reminded of what I'm working towards.
That's good.
Yeah. So yeah, welcome to Table Talk, and we're glad you guys are with us. And so with what Nick, kind of mentioned, Nick, what was some of your plans that you have put together for maybe your family or your personal faith or whatever?
Yeah, so some of our plans as a family is to be very intentional about what we say yes to and what we say no to. So in our house, at least, we have a 9-year-old and a 2-year-old with us. And we wanted to get back to kind of, life is busy, right?
Yeah.
Like every night is something, or it could be something. And convicting thought that we've had in these last few months is like, how did families used to eat at the dinner table?
Yeah.
So one of my family's biggest plans this year is to make space and to say no to things so we can, as a family, eat at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Because that's valuable. It's where conversations happen. It's where, Bella, how'd your day go? So we was able to sit around, hey, Bella, what's your plan for the year? Jonna, what's your plan for the year?
Yeah.
And all of them centered around, hey, let's get closer to Christ this year.
It's interesting just how far as a culture, like we've gotten away from that time at the table where, and if you think about it, like Jesus spent time breaking bread with the disciples at the table. There was the Lord's Supper, Matthew's table, all these different places.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was younger, as dysfunctional as, my home life may have been, we still had a time where we ate at the table.
Yeah. And now, so that's our big plan, because if you think about that now, that's a rarity now.
Yeah.
To eat at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
Most of the time, even if you eat at home, it's, hey, we picked up something and you sit on the couch while we watch TV and I'll sit over here. And I know that had looked like our life for a while, and I was just like, man, this ain't bringing us together. It's just like we're eating and we're, getting our bellies full, but we're just trying to strengthen the bond and the communication. My other one, and it's day 5, is I'm only trying to drink water this year. So
cool.
I got water, trying to get healthier for the 19th time.
Yeah, and so some of ours was, this is Hallie's senior year, so we, as a family, we committed to trying to make some memories, like
good.
spring break and stuff, go on vacation, do stuff like that. But to try to be intentional and to
They're going to Hawaii?
we're going to Hawaii. And we're taking donations now. I'm going to do a GoFundMe here soon on. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. So like, just try to make this last year in high school for her to be special and make memories and do some of those things. And then personally, like I'm really focusing on memorizing scripture. And so like I'm walking through being intentional about memorizing and reading. And then reading a certain number of books this year is one thing that I want to do. So
That's good.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Excited about it, And this coming week, we're going to go back to Encounters with Jesus, kind of that sermon series that we had been in until the holidays. And we're going to go back to that. And then we got big plans as far as for the year, so sermon-wise, so we're excited about that. But for the next, I think, 6 weeks, we're going to be back on Encounters with Jesus.
Yeah. And I think, for me, it was one of my favorite, we had only did a few, but it's one of my favorite series so far, is to look at the different encounters with Jesus. And like I'm preaching Sunday on another encounter with Jesus. And it's just amazing, like, to think about, like, when you're encounter with Jesus, like, something happens.
Yeah.
For the rich young ruler, he walked away sorrowful, but for Saul, like, he was forever changed.
Yeah.
But something happens when you're encountered by Jesus.
Yes.
So the thing that, like, I'm going to focus on, I think, this Sunday is, like, so I grew up in church, and I would say I had encounters. But, man, there was no fruit. There was no evidence. So what I really had was a religion.
Right.
And, man, when you have an encounter with Jesus, that's a relationship. And you'll start to grow from the inside out.
And it's a good point. And why it's so important, right? Like, we want our people to understand who Jesus is and who they are to Jesus in relationship with that. But the point is when you're looking at any of these encounters, I was looking back through some this morning, these people are changed.
Yeah.
By the time spent or the introduction to Jesus Christ himself.
Oh, for sure. And I think, like, have you ever, and I'm going to talk about this Sunday, I think, but have you ever, like, asked someone, are they a Christian? And they, hey, yeah, I was baptized at 7.
Yeah.
Or, hey, yeah,
Absolutely.
I joined the church at 13. And it's like, no, but are you a Christian?
Right. Are you following Jesus?
Are you following Jesus?
Yeah.
And I remember one guy, like, we had talked to, it's like, man, I've led Bible studies and I've did this and I don't think I was saved. And I think that's the big difference is we can know the right things to say and dress the part, but do you know Jesus and have you been encountered by him?
Yeah, I've heard testimonies from pastors of churches and people in Bible college or seminary or whatever, and they, along the way, realized they weren't even a Christian and had been part of the church the whole time.
Man.
That's crazy, ain't it?
Oh, yeah, for
Think
sure.
about that. Like, So this is good, right? This is good. We get to understand Jesus in a better way and in relationship, with him and him with us. So I'm excited. I've enjoyed it.
Oh, I've really.
It's kind of challenging too, like to preach, really, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Like taking each encounter and really unpacking it so that you can understand what that relationship there, how it applies in your own life.
Oh, it's been really
good.
challenging to me.
All right, so real quick, we got the highlight. We're going to highlight Servant of the Week, and we picked Johnny Hampton. Many of you guys, many of you might not even know Johnny, but Johnny's been a member here now for, gee whiz,
Long time.
probably 3 years.
Yep.
And Johnny leads a small church on Sunday night, him and his family. Johnny always is willing to serve anytime we ask. He does background stuff. I just got to thinking about with the conversation we're going to have today about men being men. Like, people like Johnny come to mind, Ryan Mosley, Tracy Hamilton, you know, Rob Martin, guys that like work hard for their family, love Jesus, and all those things. And like one instance was when the step needed to be fixed on the office house over there, and we reached out to Johnny, and he came over here on his weekend during his, you know, time that he could have been relaxing or enjoying himself, and he literally poured concrete for the whole step. And not to mention he's replaced light bulbs and helped out in a lot of different ways.
There's so many things that he does that people wouldn't even know. And that's what I love about Johnny is he's quiet. And he's humble.
He don't want any spotlight.
He doesn't want any spotlight. It's probably going to make him uncomfortable today, but like if you know Johnny, like reach out to him and tell him like you appreciate him. And all I've ever seen Johnny in his walk is he's done what he said he's going to do. So if Johnny tells you he's going to do something, and I've always appreciated about him, is he does it.
You can count on him
You can count on him to do it. Like I know he teaches at FOS.
So he serves in the community, and it's
and you know, like he leads the small church, and I know they serve at St. Benedict once a month. And man, like, but that's what I love about like the small churches and the behind the scenes people is you don't even know. So like when you come here, it's like, well, I didn't know our church does St. Benedict's. Well, we do. Their small church does it. And I think we get to play a part of that, and that's because of people like Johnny and his wife, Emily.
Just people who are committed and don't care to be known for what they're doing, but they do a lot, you know? So it's good to highlight people like that and bring those people to the front for the sake of seeing how committed some people are and how much they're willing to do for some of us that don't even realize they're doing it, right? So tell us about the upcoming events.
So the upcoming event I'm really, really excited about is this Saturday is the Food Pantry and Bus Pass Ministry. So the second Saturday, we've kind of changed our scheduling around, and which the first Saturday of every month, our concession stand will be on the go. If you haven't seen that wrapped, man, it's nice.
It's nice.
It says show love across it, and I can't wait till we are able to take that in the community and they're just able to see show love. Well, our second Saturday is this Saturday, and that's our bus pass ministry. So if you need bus passes or if you know anyone that needs them, send them to our church this Saturday from 10 to 11, and we'll get them help with transportation. We also give out food boxes the second Saturday of every month. So if you know anybody who needs help with food, send them here also from 10 to 11. We'll also have jackets to hand out as well. So this Saturday, if you need, a winter coat, it's getting cold. Last week it was 70.
This
real week
cold.
It's like 10. And man, you can feel my bones can feel it. So like if you know anyone that could need help with a jacket, and I think we even have some shoes down there, like send them this Saturday from 10 to 11. We'll be able to get them food, a winter coat, and bus passes. So I think that's what's going on this Saturday. But next Saturday, so to add on to the schedule, the third Saturday is coffee and devotional. Women's coffee and devotional. And then the fourth Saturday is going to be men's breakfast at 9 a.m. And what I love about that is the first two Saturdays, we're on the go. We're doing outreach. And like you said, Sunday, the next two Saturdays are for us to grow as a family and to grow inwardly and to, discipleship and to get to know each other. Because as a church, we're growing. And I've heard this, well, hey, go and see so-and-so. Well, who's that? Man, they've been here for a year now. And we don't want to grow so much outwardly and not grow inwardly as well.
No, that's good. And part of the men's breakfast that we're going to be doing is creating that environment where not only do we get to know each other, but like we've always wanted to really start developing a men's ministry within the church. So that's what I'm probably most excited about, just the idea that we'll be doing a men's fellowship monthly, because that's probably our biggest need. Would you agree?
I definitely agree.
We need men to be men.
I agree.
And so, man, we really encourage any of the men to come. It'll be a good time of fellowship, getting to know one another. Have a good breakfast, do some of those things.
But that's what the women been killing it.
Oh yeah, Yeah.
They've been doing coffee and devotional. They've been doing their women's Bible study, which we have a men's Bible study too, and it's good. But man, the women been on a roll.
Yeah.
And now the men this year, look, we gonna eat breakfast every month and fellowship and have a testimonial. So we're gonna grow closer together this year.
Yeah, and that's what kind of got me, thinking. And then, where we're a part of a book study during the week, they're doing we're going to start, what's it mean to be a godly man. And I'm encouraged by it because the invitation that's went out is pulling people in from like different denomination, different social classes. And so we had this meeting yesterday about it, and we got to talking about it, and it was like, what can the church do to start, raising men up? And why is it seems like right now that the church is mainly dealing with women who are passionate about what God's doing, but you can't get the men to hardly do anything.
That's
right? And so we're going to study this book. But anyways, it got me thinking about, how we're doing the men's break, because the question that was asked was, what should we do to start bridging that gap where men just don't seem to be interested with church right now, right? Mm-hmm. And I made some pretty tough comments, but and it was funny because, you go to church and you kind of see the men that are there, and I wouldn't say our church as much as maybe some others who kind of dress very feminine, you know what I mean? Honestly, and kind of seem that way. Yeah. And it's almost, and a lot of people would say it's usually because men who are trying to be Christ-like have feminine characteristics, that there's something about men being manly men, like burly men, who love Jesus just as much.
Yeah.
But when you read the Bible, you don't see any of that at all. You had Samson, and I even think about Peter, who draws a sword out and cuts a dude's ear off because he's trying to protect
David.
Yeah, like David was a warrior against, and so somehow the church has come up. I think obviously it's a lot where culture is trying to take the church over, but men need to be men in church just as much as they are out there. And so that's kind of what's on the menu today, like what I wanted to talk about as we start 2022, and we're focusing on trying to pull our men in and raise them up to be men and encourage them to do things within the church that they're probably not doing right now. And so I was just going to ask you this question, Nick. What's it mean to be a man these days at all?
Yeah, so I think, and I've listened to sermons on this, and I always like what Lecrae has to say. Is he says in Africa to become a man, they'll send you on a passage, and you have to come back with a lion.
Yeah.
And all you take is you and a little weapon.
Yeah.
Not a gun, like a spear.
Right.
And until you come back with that lion, they don't consider you a man.
Yeah.
So in America, what we've done is we define man as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
But we all know there's plenty of 30-year-olds that ain't really men.
Yeah, we got more boys in men's bodies than we do men, right?
Yeah, so what does it be a man these days is I think the standard's really low, and we define men by their age, right?
Yeah. We
define men by, he's a man, he's 19 and he has a kid.
Yeah.
But no, that's still a little boy. And I think, and I listened to a sermon this morning from Tony Evans, and he says, one of the biggest tricks the enemy ever done is he got the man out of the house.
So Paul Harvey in 1960 did that video that we've actually played before. Do you remember hearing that?
The Messed Up Man?
No, Paul Harvey was a radio broadcaster who in 1960 predicted all these things that's unfolded.
Oh, wow.
Like taking God out of the government and schools and doing all those things. But it also talked about if I was the enemy, I'd redefine what the family unit is. Oh. And now we're dealing with that, where I don't even know anybody can tell you what's it mean to even be a family.
That's it.
We're redefining gender roles, and therefore redefining what those roles look like or should look like, and but that plays into everything you're saying.
Oh yeah.
If I was the enemy, right, and I saw Nick Martin's family this might not be a good example because I think she could whoop me. But I would probably try to take Nick out.
Yeah.
Because I would think that I'd have a better chance taking John out.
Oh yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And so in our culture today, like we've started redefining what men are. We've started, almost. I don't even know how you answer the question anymore.
Mm-mm. There is no standard of men anymore. There is no what is a man that right there.
Right.
There in America at least there is no such bar as that right there is what you would define as a man.
Right.
And because I said like we define men as 18-year-olds or a guy that has a kid, and man, I would say this furthest from the truth.
Yeah, and we've almost created this culture where you have to apologize for being a man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I want to protect my family. I want to be. What about like chivalry? You know what I mean? Like opening the door for a woman, which are things I need to do for my own wife. Or like, well, now there's this battle between, should I even do those things anymore? Is it offensive that I'm implying that a woman can't open the door for herself? And it's like, well, at what point do we realize that by feminizing men, eventually, right, even our children, our boys, eventually we're going to have this society where we don't even know what a man is.
That's right. Yeah, I think that guy said it in the 60s, and it's coming true, but even think about 40, 50 years from now.
Oh, yeah.
There will be no definition of a man. There will be no, like, that's a grizzly Adam, of a man. That's the man to look up to. And that's a lot to do with just America. But, like if you think about it in the old days, like, a man was, look, you went to war.
Right.
Like, your women and children stayed at home, and you was on the battlefield. And if you didn't go, you was a coward. Yeah. It's like, man, you better get your butt out there and fight.
Which remind me of, and I meant to tell Rob about this. He's only mad at me because he would have wanted to put like a visual up about this. But it reminded me of Hacksaw Ridge. Mm-hmm. Is that the name of it? You remember?
The war, yeah.
Yeah, war where the guy goes to war.
Yeah, with no gun.
And he has no gun, and he has convictions. He's confident that he, as a Christian, he's not supposed to do the things that they do in war, which is a whole nother discussion. But the point is, he's so convinced that that's what he's supposed to do. That's what he does. Yeah. And by being a medic, he ends up saving all these other men who were wounded in battle, so that they could later win the whole war, right? And
one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just think about too. Like I always think about it. I've heard Rob say this because Rob's a little bit more bold than me. Like I've heard Rob call somebody like a boy. Like, man, you're a boy. Like, you ain't leading your family. You ain't. You making excuses.
Yeah. So why is it that we're in a place now where we have to apologize about our convictions?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll give you an example. I'm in this meeting yesterday. There's a lot of these guys. I didn't know who they were. Mm-hmm. And this guy's like, well, we've came from a place where the man went to work and the woman stayed home with the kids and everything. He goes, no. Hold on, be careful. I want to be careful. I don't think that it's sin for a woman to have a career. And I'm thinking, why are you apologizing? Like, even if that's what you believe, like, believe it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Don't apologize for that.
Which, on a separate note, I heard to go on your point, I was listening to something last night, and they said, since when did we, as a country or as a people, not be able to stand up and debate and talk it through and not apologize for what we believe?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, we have, like, everything in our culture now says, I have to apologize for the way I feel. Yeah. I have to apologize for the things that I believe in. And not, man, you don't have, like, if that's what you feel and that's your convictions and that's what you stand on, then I think as a real man, you stand on it.
Right or wrong.
And, like, so for me, like, one of my biggest convictions is, like as a man of my house, like, when my house, and I always like this, Lecrae says, if a house looks haunted, you don't blame the house, you blame the man that owns the house.
Right.
And I always like that is you always, as men, we always have to look in the mirror at ourselves and say, am I being a man?
Yeah.
And I think one of our biggest problems, not only in culture, but in our church is, for me, I always grew up in church. I would say I had probably one or two guys that could have been an example to me.
Yeah.
That I was like, man, that's a man I want to be like.
Which is a good point and leads to the next question. How should the church be dealing with men being men in the culture we live in today? Yeah. And that's a broad question, so I realize, but like something that me and you need to think about. Like,
yeah. Well, I think like you do a very good job at, and you always say discipleship is the missing link.
Yeah.
So for you, I always know, like, in your discipleship groups, you don't cut any slack.
None, son.
It's, hey, you agree to this.
Yeah.
I'm holding you accountable to this, and we're meeting at Saturday morning at 6:30.
Yeah. Get in or get out.
So what a lot of people do, and I see a lot of D groups fall apart because they start apologizing. Well, they can't meet at 6:30.
Yeah.
I get that they're tired. No, you signed up for this. Get in or get out.
Yeah.
And I don't have to apologize for you. You signed up for this.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the missing links in the church today is we don't have men that like just point it out. Like, no, you're making an excuse.
Yeah.
You can come. You don't want to come.
Right. And so like I can personally testify to when I first came to the church, I didn't feel like, you know, when you come from the streets and you get out of prison and like Christ saves you and radically changes you, there's still that part of you, the old you, that like you think of a man as being a man, right? Yeah. And when I got introduced to the church, like I didn't feel like these guys were really manly men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What I can tell you is I feel like I'm convinced that when I became a man in my late 30s is when I was willing to take responsibility for my actions.
That's right.
And see the value in protecting my family and caring for them and investing into my own kids and not making excuses and all those things. And so, unfortunately, we're dealing with a big issue, right? Yeah. And so we got to do something. And this is just a little piece of some conversation. This would be something we talk about quite a bit. And you know, and we always pick on the men. This is me being transparent. We always pick on the men, but the women play a role too. Like women, you know, can you get my husband to start being a man and then when the man tries to lead, they don't want him to lead.
That's right.
Well, you ain't gonna tell me what to do, you know. And it's like, now wait a minute. If we're raising up men to lead their families, right, there is a portion of you submitting to the leadership when it's right and all that, so that they can be men.
That's right.
Right? And so, anyway, so I got to thinking about, and so 1 Corinthians 16, verses 13 through 14, Paul has written a letter to the church in Corinth, and it was a mess. Like, a lot of people act like Matthew's Table is a mess. No, this church was a mess. Like, they had incest, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And this is his final instructions. This is him speaking to the men that were leading the church. He said, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, be careful not to be led away, right? Act like men is what the ESV says. Yeah. Another translation would say be courageous. So what's a man look like? He's somebody who's courageous, right? He has courage. He's not a wimp, right? And then be strong. That's what it says. Stand firm in the faith, act like men, and be strong, right? Mm-hmm. But this is the part that I love the most, because if you stop there, you think, oh, we're looking for another burly man, like Grizzly Adams or something. No, it says, let all that you do be done in love. Yeah. Which led me back to the idea or the thought of the Hacksaw Ridge, where the guy, he didn't fight, he never shot a weapon. Yeah. But in love, he went to war and saved all kinds of people. Yeah. And so the love should be the driving factor, the reason as to why you're willing to be courageous and act like men.
Yeah, so he was just as manly as the guy with the AK-47,
Absolutely.
Right? If not more manly, that he was willing to stand on his convictions and go in there with no weapon to go save men that had weapons. Yes. So, like, and I wanted to hit on something real quick because I think this is a problem in culture, is I know when me and Jonna first got saved and Christ changed our lives, I started doing things in ministry. And then women or people started telling her, well, what are you doing? Yeah. And it was like, so we started, it was almost like a battle in our home now. Like, when you're doing this, I need to do this. Yeah. And it was like, no, like, if I do anything as the man in our house, this is us. Right. But culture will say, like, No, woman, stand up.
Yeah.
Or you have to have this, or you need to do this too. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with women doing it, but I think culture screams at them that if your man does something and you're not, then you're not doing anything. And I think that's furthest from the truth. This is a family.
Yeah.
And we do this together, and anything that I do as a man represents the Martin family in my household.
Because two become one.
Yeah.
And so for example, like you being called to ministry and doing what you're doing, anybody without wisdom might think, well, what's Jonna doing? Well, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Jonna's making a huge sacrifice so that you're able to do what you do. And Jonna does more than most women I know. But my point is, I'm able to do what I'm able to do because of the wife that I have.
Exactly.
And she loves doing ministry, but she also understands that there's a role there, and she supports me.
Exactly.
And without her,
yeah. Culture tries to make it a competition, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's doing this. What are you doing? No, this is our family, and I'm like, trust me as the man.
Yeah.
And I just think as men, and I'm glad we're doing the men's breakfast, is like for me and you and Rob and a lot of men in our church, like iron sharpens iron, right?
Yeah.
We need to be around men that challenge us, that call out truths to us. Because for me, especially when I first became a Christian, I still wanted to revert back to my old ways. Like I wanted to manipulate still. I wanted to. And I remember the first time a man told me something I didn't want to hear. I was like, man, I ain't doing that.
Right.
Like I ain't never done nothing like that in my life. And he was like, you should do it. If you agreed to do it, you should do it.
Right.
And I was like, man, I had never done nothing like that in my life. But he didn't waver.
Yeah.
He's like, you need to do it.
Well, the guy that poured into me initially, he was a Christian, so I figured he'd just be, a pushover and doormat, and I'd manipulated people for so long I could get over on him. And I'll never forget when, like, he gave me the business. Like, I'll never forget this. He said, I don't care about your feelings, I care about your soul.
Ooh.
And to care about another man's soul means iron can't, like iron sharpening iron, that's a hard surface.
That's right.
That makes another hard surface sharp. And without being pressed against one another, you're not going to be able to do it. So
right.
we've ran over. Just for wrap up, man, I'd like to invite everybody tonight to Truth and Grace at 6 p.m. We're going to be focusing on like commitment and focus this month and just kind of teaching through that biblically. Also, Sunday service, we're back in Encounters with Jesus. Nick is going to be bringing an awesome message. So invite friends. Like that could be something new you do this year, right? But also the February 19th fundraiser for the youth.
Yeah, so this is for Matthew's Table people. And I would love for everyone to come. So what we're doing February 19th, our plan to grow inwardly. We're doing inwardly stuff. So this is for the people of Matthew's Table. Is our youth will be selling tickets for $20. And what does that get you? It gets you a meal. It gets you fellowship. We'll play games. We'll have raffles. And that is a way to support our youth going to youth camp. Like Roger said Sunday, we're a part of a church where many of our kids had never been to youth camp, never had the privilege of going, never had, they may come from a hard background. And all of our youth got to go last year, and we want all of them to go this year. And so what we're going to do is it's called Light. I think it's called Light in the Darkness. I didn't want to mess up the name. But we want you to dress to impress. Does it have to be a suit? No. It could be a collared shirt. But, like we may have a prize for the best dress that night. So I'll probably win it.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Rob Martin will probably win it.
I'll have best dance moves.
Yeah, so is this a couples thing? That's what a lot of people have been asking me. No. Couples, singles, if you're a part of Matthew's Table, we want you to come. It's going to be an awesome night of fellowship. We'll start selling tickets this Sunday, $20 per ticket. And, like you may say, like, oh, that's $20. That's $20 to help a kid go to youth camp to hear about Jesus. And, like I was teaching the youth last month, and I had asked them, like, what was the most impactful thing that you did last year that pointed you to Christ? And more than one of them said, man, I was able to go to youth camp.
It was awesome.
So this Sunday, we'll start selling tickets. Look for me or Tamara or Heather Penny. We'll have a table set up if you want to buy a ticket.
All right. Make sure you get your tickets starting this weekend.
All right. Y'all have a great week. Invite a friend this Sunday, 8:30 or 10:45.
Love you guys.